Welcome to this episode of Luck is Not a Strategy. I'm your host, Matthew Von Trapp, and in this third video in the series, we are diving into some deep and uncomfortable territory as we examine what is wrong with the construction industry. Today we're starting out with the most prominent of the M's in the 8 M's, which is management. As we examine management, we'll include the managers, the methods they employ, the culture they create, and the effects of their management style on the business. In our second video, we talked about the business model, which is full of gaps, executed poorly, and prone to program failures. Each video builds upon the last, so please watch it if you haven't done so, or you might not understand the perspective of this video. The fact that the business model continues to be chosen by construction professionals, even after a consistent failure rate, tells us much of what we need to know about the people who attempt to execute this model. As we briefly review the business model gaps, we see that managing large programs through this business model will produce inherent issues, creating a painful experience for clients who have usually set very public opening dates. So, who are the brave men and women who attempt to harness the unpredictable outcomes of this outdated business model? Let's look at who they are and what their background is. First of all, they are not businessmen. The majority are construction engineers who have worked their way up to construction manager positions. To understand their experience and training, we just look back into the typical construction manager's history. Remembering that in a 20-year career, it's likely that the average construction manager would have never seen a program executed on time, within scope, and to budget. Let's look at the factors that form the basis for their decision-making skills and leadership style. Starting in engineering school about 25 years ago, their education would have focused on engineering, such as math, science, etc., with only a mention of project management. Even today, construction management courses offer only 1 or 2 classes in project management and none on program management. Most colleges have improved with regards to management training, but that hasn't had the effective impact needed to change the outcome of large programs today, and I'll show you why. In the 1980s and 90s, these new grads would have made their way into the field, and what did they experience there? Well, the chaos that results from having minimal information about delivery, certification, and the asset design itself, together with an extreme pressure of scheduled delivery, turns the entire job site into a hotbed of contention and stress. This newcomer to the industry would encounter an unprofessional work culture on the job site where screaming, yelling, coercion, sophistry, and reactive management is the norm. They also would have been taught the unethical practice many contractors employ, such as hiding mistakes and misrepresenting facts. This cauldron of blaming and finger-pointing has little room for the solid business practices, innovations, and continuous improvement found in the business world, giving the average engineer very little exposure and even less opportunity to develop management skills, leadership attributes, or business acumen. But because clients don't have the construction expertise to perform the work themselves, these construction managers gain the room they need to hide the inadequacy of the business model and ultimately continue proliferation of this execution method. So this engineer would have moved through the ranks from the contractor to consultant to client organizations carrying the same belief that the business model is okay, maybe even normal. The construction industry requires tough and rough engineers that know how to beat the program into submission, and that they are the perfect people to do just that. In summary, we've taken an engineering grad and seen them groomed in a poor business model that produces poor results and a toxic work culture. So as they move through the ranks, they become more and more likely to produce the only thing they've ever known. This proves disastrous again and again when we see these individuals moving into the ranks of leadership over multi-billion-dollar construction programs, where their experience and their knowledge have little effectivity and where their collisions with business experts causes them significant issues. Conclusion: the people we've chosen to run the business model don't have the business skill set or leadership attributes to counteract the negative effects of the business model itself. It's a bit like taking a pilot of a small Cessna and sticking them in the cockpit of a large airliner, and then wondering time and time again why they crash and burn. While we shake our heads at this continuing debacle and ask ourselves why this wasteful and inefficient business model is allowed to persist, and why these particular individuals are selected to operate the business model, we need to remember that in many ways the environment wasn't ideal to correct these issues previously. It's only been with the proliferation of technology and the increasing occurrences of mega projects, with the crossover of business experts into construction clients, that have exposed many of these weaknesses. Moving on to the methods these managers employ, we see that when these engineers reach the pinnacle of their career in the top of some client organization, consulting group, or construction company, we see that they take these failed methods and execution paradigms with them, creating a culture that is toxic and volatile. Safety, quality, and regulatory requirements are seen as a hindrance to schedule, and heavy doses and extra layers of inspections, audits, and oversight are needed internally and from outside organizations, causing these construction managers to complain of interference. In our next video, we'll dive deeper into the methods used to manage these large programs, but for now, it suffices to say that the methods the management teams use are archaic and outdated, with many not even being capable of using computer programs. Remember that in the business model, the cat and mouse games are played between the management layers, where contractors continue to try to hide poor results, and the experienced consultants do their best to uncover them. In this environment of adversarial letter writing, scores of document controllers are needed to track correspondence for the sake of finger pointing at the next non-value-added construction update meeting. The net effect of employing these methods create a completely non-business environment where costs soar, throughput slows down, and the quality, safety, and environmental concerns are an afterthought, making the work environment completely reactive, negative, and toxic. In such an environment, value-based work ethics, professional business measurements, and dissenting opinion for the greater good are quickly shot down because the construction managers think they are a waste of time and getting in the way of, you guessed it, the schedule. In contrast, the calm, positive, proactive, and collaborative work environments we see in such companies as Google, Tesla, Microsoft, Apple, and Caterpillar lay the foundation of the professional approach and value-based business actions we strive for. All of this speaks for itself, ladies and gentlemen. The statistics don't lie. And it seems that the combination of the poor business model, together with the unprepared managers that lead these programs, leave only one possible outcome for a program: failure. And it's time to change. Well, that concludes our presentation for today on the management personnel and practices on mega projects. In our fourth video, we'll explore other aspects of the method M in the 8Ms paradigm, including contracts and review processes. And by the end of the video series, I'll propose some ideas for a disruption technology where we can expect mega projects to finish on time with a 10 to 20% reduction in cost and a higher quality, safety, environment track record. With the added benefit, of course, of creating a work culture that we could be proud of. Exciting stuff, ladies and gentlemen. So stay tuned, and until then, remember that luck is not a strategy. I'm your host, Matthew Von Trapp. Thanks for tuning in.